And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody is off to a wonderful start of their day. Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. Today's a big day, and I'll tell you why. Because today is the day that the Dave Matthews Band announces its fall or summer tour dates. So waiting with bated breath. So if I have to interrupt the show, I'd be like, hold on, yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay.
I don't know what time, but I'm just I'm watching like a hawk.
Okay.
Big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
big deal. Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. I'd be a little bit better if you stopped telling me if I'm in the way of everybody, Robbie.
Well, get out of the way, people.
I was not in the way of Keith Urban.
Keith Urban, Nicole Kidman walking out of the elevator last week. Keyser just right in the way.
Wasn't the only one,
the security detail to move him out of the way.
Did they say, excuse me? Like, did you?
No.
No. Were you trying to take a quick selfie with him or something? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Keith, your thoughts on UC Saros?
You have thoughts.
I do. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show on the UC Saros front. Looking forward to that discussion. We got a lot to get into on the program here today. We will get into the Predators and UC Saros. Is it time to have some concern about his long-term future here with the Predators? We'll do that later this hour. So we'll welcome your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com will join us at 8 o'clock. He's been at the East-West Shrine Bowl and had a nice piece about Shedeur Sanders at TennesseeTitans.com. So we'll get his thoughts on the Titans, the quarterback position, all of those things. And the coaching staff, as we learned yesterday, Joe, Colt Anderson is out with the Tennessee Titans. But it's looking like pretty much everybody else is back. So is that good? Did the Titans make the right decision on that front? We'll get into that a little bit later in the show as well. I want to start with something I heard Stilley talking about yesterday on his program, which I think is an interesting discussion. The Titans are in this new era now with Mike Borgonzi coming in. He's coming from Kansas City, which I guess in some ways is relevant to this discussion. But I think anytime you hire a new general manager, especially when you're a horrible team like the Titans were, 3-14, you start to look at the equation and you say, all right, well, what's the best way to build your team? How do you build your team successfully and get to the point where you're competing for a playoff spot, competing for your division, and then ultimately competing for what Philadelphia and Kansas City are about to play for, and that's a championship? Like, how do you go about doing that? And, Stilley brought up the two examples of the teams that are still standing yesterday. Kansas City, we know what they are. We know what they've built. And we know basically how they've done it with Patrick Mahomes leading the way since he's gotten there. And then Philadelphia is built differently. Like, Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He's had some moments throughout his career where he's played extremely well, and he's been really, really good. But you look at that roster, and I said it yesterday, like I think they have the best roster in the NFL. So they've got the best offensive line, I think, in the NFL. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's come in and has been a huge addition. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. I mean, they're loaded on the offensive side. They're loaded on the defensive side. It's an incredible roster that they've been able to put together. And Jared went through kind of an exercise yesterday of how they've acquired some of the pieces that they've acquired. Titans have been a part of that. Pretty major part of that. Titans have helped them do that. But I brought up the example to you yesterday, like the fact that the rest of the league let them get Jalen Carter, and now Jalen Carter, like I know, Matt LaFleur was talking about basically in the division or in the playoff game that Green Bay had against them. There were some concepts and plays that they wanted to run, and they were like, we have to take it out because Jalen Carter will blow it up. And he's like, they were like, how often do you have to do that? And he's like, yeah, it's basically been Aaron Donald and Jalen Carter that we've had to do that about. So, I mean, that kind of shows you the impact that guy has. So there's been a lot of things that Philadelphia and Howie Roseman have been able to do and construct. The Carson Wentz trade, I mean, they turned that into a lot of really good assets for them. They've built up an incredible roster, which is why they're now going to their second trip to a Super Bowl. And the question is, like, which way should you go if you're the Titans? What's the easier path to go? Now, Jared's thought was, Like Philadelphia is a really smart team. Titans aren't necessarily a smart team, and it's easier to luck into the quarterback and go that route than it is to build up this incredible roster that Philadelphia has built up around their team. What do you make of that discussion and the path forward for the Tennessee Titans?
So I didn't hear this, but okay, so he's saying, I mean, first of all, if your argument is, hey, you should luck into the quarterback, I'm like, okay. So does that mean is he advocating that they must draft one of these guys then? Just every chance you get, draft a quarterback.
He did not say that. But I think his general thought process was, Kansas City, number one, they got the coach. So that was the main thing. And then they lucked into Mahomes, and now this is the end result of it. And that's an easier proposition, in his opinion, for the Titans than just having the wherewithal to build up this incredible roster around their quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, because like when I saw this on the grid, I was like, I to my mind, it was like, okay, so wait, is one of them way more draft than free agency? I mean, in both cases, there are some commonality. It's funny because you talk about Jalen Carter. How many people have been saying, especially this week, great job letting the Chiefs have Xavier Worthy, right? But I mean, both of them have drafted well.
Yes.
Right? I mean, both of them have
right. Like I don't want to sit here and take away from Kansas City's roster.
Yeah,
like, it's pretty good.
I mean, the defensive side of the ball. Look at how they've had basically one star, and they've haggled and they've kept him around. And he continues to be a game wrecker. But then around him, really at every level of that defense, they've had difference makers. They had to build up their offensive line a lot after that Super Bowl where they couldn't block anyone. There's another Titan. Titans should have taken Trey Smith, but maybe they can pay him in free agency now.
Might have an opportunity to get him.
Pay him a lot more. So I guess I do think that one big difference that you point out there, the coach. And he's the GM, right? I mean, he's the guy who's at the forefront of picking players by all accounts. So there's where there's a huge difference to me. I mean, the huge difference in these teams is there because, Nick Sirianni, you can't sit here and as much as at times in his press conferences, you're wondering what the heck the guy's talking about. He obviously has some effectiveness, but no one's going to confuse him with like Vince Lombardi, right? So the Eagles have him, and they have Jalen Hurts, whereas the Chiefs have probably as good as it gets at both of those spots. So from that perspective, so if we're going to do these comparisons of the Titans, the Titans have an unproven head coach who's 3-14, and again, I'm not giving up on him, but there's a big difference. Andy Reid was a great coach who just couldn't win the big one when the Chiefs got him. So first of all, there's no comparison there. But I guess to me, it's like I'm more of the mind of like if you can't be smart enough to build up your roster, if you can't effectively, build through the draft, make smart free agent signings, you get a little luck along the way too. But if you can't do that, then you need to have a new front office. The Eagles are exceptional. There's no question. But but that's how you have to do it, right? Yes, of course, everybody wants the quarterback, but the Eagles might win the Super Bowl, and they almost won a Super Bowl with a good quarterback.
Well, I would say both of these outcomes are very difficult to achieve, right? It's very difficult to build your roster to the point where Philadelphia has built it. Look, I joked about it yesterday, but they had Nakobe Dean go out, who's a really darn good player, and they had Oren Burks in there the other day just flying around. I was like, "What is this? What is Oren Burks doing out there?" They don't really have a weak spot on their defense. They don't really have a weak spot on their roster. It's pretty incredible what they've been able to do. That's very difficult to achieve in the NFL. As Titans fans should know, finding that level of quarterback, and Mahomes is probably not even a great example because he may be a unicorn in and of his own self. But finding that level of quarterback, like one of your top upper echelon quarterbacks, Titans hadn't found that. So that is also really difficult to do. It's really difficult to achieve. So if I had to pick a path of what I thought was probably easier, I think mine would actually be Philadelphia's. Like, I think you make good decisions. They're not always going to work. Like, look, Philadelphia, they gave Carson Wentz a contract, and it wasn't a great decision.
Yeah.
But they flipped it, and they, I think they were bad for a year, and then they flipped him, and they've been able to build off since that. So they took a bad decision and made a good decision out of it, which is what you have to do from time to time. But I would still say, like, the Titans' path forward here, I think it's probably more likely that you have to build your roster up than it is you're just going to find a stud quarterback, even though that I fully realize they have the number 1 overall pick coming up.
Yeah, you have to try to do both. And so maybe, maybe they draft one of these guys and there you go. That's your guy, and he's that good. And you've done it. I understand that if they don't draft the guy, some Titans fans, it's totally understandable, will be like, okay, so when the heck is that going to happen? When and how is the quarterback going to happen? And I don't have a great answer for that, because if you get to a point where you're pretty good, then it's harder to get there. Now, again, if you trade down, get another pick, then next year you have more ammo to move up.
Yep.
And I don't know that they're going to have to move up that much. I mean, I don't know how good they're going to be. If that's the case, then is your coach back? Are you getting a new coach? There's all these variables, but I'm with you. I mean, you have to build up the roster. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we've talked a lot about how he had Tyreek Hill, he's had Travis Kelce, but he's done great things without like great pieces around him. But look, if he was on a completely crap team, I don't think he'd be winning all these. He wouldn't be playing in the Super Bowl. If that defense wasn't great this year, they wouldn't be here. If he didn't have Kelce, if they didn't fix the offensive line, he's the most important part of it. But let's also not pretend like he's just dragging a bunch of scrubs along with him.
Right. Like, he is a force multiplier. There is no doubt about that. Like, he elevates everything around him, and that's what the great quarterbacks do. But I also think, at some point there is a limit to what you elevate around you, right? Like, he's not going to take you and me out there and go win a Super Bowl. Right. I don't think. Although, if he wants to give it a shot,
I can cover a punt.
But yeah, I can play.
Yeah. I pretty good long snapper, actually. Yeah. So, I mean, the Eagles, you're right. It is pretty amazing. Like up and down their roster, every level is pretty good. But okay, let's go back to, again, just 3 years ago. I would argue that the Titans at every level of defense, they weren't great at corner. I would say they were great at safety. Up front, their pass rush was unbelievable. They had the best running back in the game. They had one of the best receivers in the game. Ryan Tannehill, by the way, for like a 2-year span, you can find these graphics on the internet, had better numbers than Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying, I'm not saying he was better than him, but I'm just saying, like, that was 3 years ago.
That goes back to the roster, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes. It's the roster.
And 3 years ago, they were that strong, and now they're this weak 3 years later. And yes, part of it is the dude who's playing in the Super Bowl, too, catching passes.
There's that. From 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. What's the best path forward for the Titans in terms of the construction of their team? We'll get into that. We'll get into the UC Saros conversation later this hour as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. 615-737-1025. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans and the path forward here. One texter says, there are too many needs to be filled elsewhere outside of quarterback. So there's no point in getting a new young quarterback at this point if everything else, especially on offense, can't help the quarterback shine. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, I have to disagree with that just fundamentally. If it's a great quarterback, you go ahead and take the great quarterback. I mean, plenty of teams have picked up the great quarterback at the top of the draft, and the reason that they got the opportunities is their team sucked, and so they did not bring that quarterback into a great situation. Again, I hate to keep going to Peyton Manning for so many examples, but the Indianapolis Colts were complete buns, and he was too as a rookie, by the way. And we know what happened there. That's year 2, they go like 11-5, and it's like, oh yeah, there you go. I mean, you can't. Yeah, ideally, hey, here it is. Everything's all set. We got the everything all taken care of, and now we can get our quarterback. But if you have the chance to get the quarterback, get the quarterback. The question is just whether these guys are the quarterback.
Yeah, like how often is everything is like the table set for the rookie quarterback to come in and be like, okay, the only thing we're missing is the rookie quarterback. Like, it doesn't happen very often. Usually when you're in a position to draft those guys high, it probably means the rest of your roster is not in great shape. Right. Which is how you become bad.
Right. So, and then sometimes you get surprised. CJ Stroud came in. Well, yeah, good luck with the Texans. Right. Worked out pretty well. Jaden Daniels, the Commanders, absolutely terrible for how long? Forever.
Long time.
And all of a sudden, here they are in the NFC Championship game. Meanwhile, Caleb Williams goes to the Bears, and, well, they continue to suck as we thought they would.
Yeah.
But the Bears happy they have Caleb Williams right now? I'd say they are. Now they got a new coach. And now, we'll see. We'll see what they can do around it. We'll see what he can turn into. But, Drake May joins the Patriots. They stink. He eventually ascends to the starting job. There's a lot of optimism. Again, new coach with them, too. You do wonder, with the Titans, if they don't take the quarterback, if they can't do enough this season, or this offseason to improve themselves, and they have another bad year, are we talking next year about a new quarterback and a new coach together?
Yeah. Well, and then also, like, how far away is this Titans roster? Because look, the thing about it is we were talking about this roster being better than the year before on paper. I still believe the roster, you can make the argument.
On paper, it was.
Well, on paper was better. Now, having said that, right tackle, who we thought was a serviceable player, ended up being just a total turnstile
mannequin
out there. So that was not good. You had cornerbacks that you had gone out and signed that couldn't get on the field. So that factors in. I mean, there's a lot of, look, even Harold Landry, even though I think the numbers ended up being fine, I think you and I would both agree that Harold Landry did not impact games this past season the way that we thought he would heading into the year. So, you factor all those things in, like rosters on paper and rosters the way they end up playing out are two different things a lot of times. But I'm just saying, like, is this roster in such dire shape that no matter what they do this offseason, it's still going to be a 3 years before they're competing for a playoff spot? Like, I don't think it's too much to ask to improve on 3 wins. That's not really what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about, like, how quickly do you get to being a team that competes for a playoff spot and getting back in the dance?
Yeah, well, to me, it's not impossible, but it's you shore up. By the way, some people say "sure up," and it's really annoying. It's shore,
I noticed
like
that.
the shore. Yeah. It's shore up. You shore up right tackle. You hope again. Some of this is just like, what are some of these guys who are definitely going to be part of the lineup? But do they get better?
Right.
Does the left side become good? Does Cushenberry get healthy and play? Is Sweat better? Are the 2 corners you mentioned, are they playing next year? Are they good? Okay. Well, if all those things break their way, you still have a ton of stuff to do. But if you shore up right tackle along with that stuff, good backs, you you can add an outside weapon, and then it's like, can you get pretty good quarterback play? If all those things broke their way, again, you have to, like, you need another edge badly. You need more, probably another safety. There's things that you need. They're not going to get all the things, but if you just seriously make it so that the right side of the line is not a disaster, and some of those things break your way, you get some health luck, and then you get okay quarterback play, yeah, you could be like a 7-8 win team. I mean, it's not hard in this league to be a 7-8 win team.
No,
it's embarrassing to not be.
Exactly. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Tyrell to the program. Tyrell, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
How you doing?
Good.
All right, so I always listen to you guys every morning. I can't go to work without listening to you guys.
Thank you.
I have a comment on the state of Titans where I think we should go forward, and a couple of questions for you guys. One, I keep trying to tell people we have to hopefully that Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward have this humongous, great workout that none of them are going to throw at the combine, and we all know the reason for that, so they can showcase other players. They need a great thing for that to happen. But I'm looking at this draft. The Browns may need a quarterback. Other than the Raiders, even the Giants, and even if we move down, Abdul Carter is not going to make it past either the Browns or make it past. Who is that also needed?
Patriots are there too.
Yeah, Patriots. And so I don't see them. He's going to, and I don't see him as a Myles Garrett thing. So I don't see anybody in there who's number one, exceptional player. I'm not really high on Travis Hunter. He's going both sides of the ball. He's not going to be able to do that in the NFL. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. He may have some packages on the offensive side, but he's not going to play every down in the NFL. It's just not going to happen. Now, hopefully, I would love to trade down and get what we need, but depending on the what we get in free agency, I think that's going to be determined why we deal with the draft. Now, my question is to you: the rankings has the offensive tackle from LSU in front of Brown. How far back? Well, first question: how far back is they worse? If we trade down, how far back? When you think it's worthy enough to even pick a tackle at that time. My second question is, other than, I think other than Abdul Carter, Pierce was the other one. That's the other.
There's a couple guys, but yeah, James Pierce.
Yeah. And I think James Pierce is the other one that's ranked as high as that. The reason Landry didn't do well enough, and Sweat, I like Arden Key. He's just a rotational guy. He's just not an impact player. All that defensive line needs another impact player to go along with Sam to let everything else go by.
Yep, thanks for the call, Tyrell. Appreciate it. So on his first part, trading down for a tackle. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, Joe. Like, how do you view these tackles? Like, I think you could probably move down, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that neighborhood, and you could still be in a spot where you could pick a tackle. Now,
what tackle do you want?
Which tackle do you want? Like, is that and the other thing I think you brought up, which is fair, like, what if you view those guys as a left tackle? Well, you already have a left tackle. Do you have internal conversations about moving Latham back to the right side? Like, how does that factor into all of it?
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying that I like that idea. I mean, to me, it's like you've gone through this entire transition and, I think ideally he stays there, but yeah, maybe there's a guy who's like this guy has been nothing but a left tackle. Again, I don't know who that would be. I mean, Will Campbell is I think the guy
right
who is the high, is probably going to be the first tackle to go. He started at left tackle 3 years, but again, that also doesn't necessarily mean anything college to pro. A lot of guys start in college at left tackle and they switch to right tackle.
Some start at right tackle and switch to left tackle.
Yep. So, so who knows? I mean, I understand sometimes fans are like pulling their hair, like, do not take a tackle. But hey, if that's the best football player available, you have a need at that position. And I think Tyrell's right. I mean, so many of these questions about the draft, like we're going to have a much clearer picture after free agency. Well, especially quarterback, right? I mean, if they go out and get someone, then I think we kind of know that they're trying to bail out of one. Yeah,
unless you're doubling up.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
The Atlanta Falcons strategy, the strategy for everyone moving forward. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in David to the program. David, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. Just my quick thought. Obviously, you're going to draft a QB if there's one up at the top of the list. I don't know that I'm seeing that this year. Personally, I'd like to see them fill that top pick with some skill players, fill all the roster gaps that we have, and bring in a temporary quarterback for a few years. Because I think there's just more risk with QB than you have with other positions out there. Like you take a Jackson Dart, who was pretty decent, maybe above average in college. He's not going to translate to the NFL. And I think that's true for most of these young QBs. So that's just my quick thought. Thanks, guys. I enjoyed the show.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will continue conversation on the draft throughout the program today. We will get back into the Titans coaching staff a little bit later in the show as well. Coming up next, is it time to be concerned about UC Saros and his long-term future prognosis here with the Nashville Predators? We'll get into that. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Does Saros' numbers, do they concern you right now where he's at?
No, not really. I mean, there's ebbs and flows of the year. I would say his game probably isn't up to his standard the last, 3-4 weeks. But again, if you look at the whole of the last game, even the Chicago game, maybe he didn't like a goal, but he made some unbelievable saves and kept us in games to give us a chance to win. And that's all you really ask for your goaltender. He's been an elite performer for a long time, and there's no wavering of thinking that he's not still that.
Us Predators head coach Andrew Brunette yesterday at Centennial Sportsplex as the Predators were practicing, discussing his goalie, UC Saros. Numbers have not been great from Saros as of late. Got pulled last week against San Jose, and then he got shelled Saturday night against Anaheim. Now, a few of those, I don't know what the Predators were doing in front of him defensively, but it wasn't very good. First one, not good goalie play from UC Saros in that play. And it got me looking at some numbers, Joe. And it kind of leads to just a longer-term conversation with him. So UC Saros, as we all know, he signed an 8-year deal this last offseason. The deal has not kicked in yet. It's going to kick in after this season. So, I mean, look, he's going to be the goalie here for a long time. I think it is what it is. He's going to be the goalie here for a long time. The Predators made their decision in goal. They traded away Askarov, who apparently now wants to be called Askarov, even though he still pronounces it Askarov. So figure that one out while you're there.
Asky.
Yeah. But I'm looking at the trend with UC Saros right now over the last couple of years. And it's not especially comforting the way that things are going with him right now. So let's go back to 2 seasons ago. It was John Hines' last year with the Predators. They had the fire sale where, they traded Niederreiter and Ekholm and Jeannot and Granlund, got all these players, got all these picks. And you kind of felt like in the second half of that season that they were going to be a team that was bad and that was trending towards picking near the top of the draft. Well, they figured it out. The young guys came in, played well. Like, that was the first glance we got at guys like Evangelista, and they came up and played pretty well. And they were alive in the playoff race until game 81. Well, yeah, the young guys were a big part of that. But the biggest part of that was UC Saros. Like, he was unbelievable for them down the stretch. And he was single-handedly at times stealing games and winning games. And he got to the end of that season, Joe, that was 22-23. And his numbers were a .919 save percentage, .269 goals against average. And there's a couple of different websites that measure like goals saved above expected in different ways.
Yeah.
For the sake of this discussion, I'm using Hockey Reference. He saved 30 goals above expected that year, which is an incredible number. Like, it's really good. It's elite goaltending. Then you have last year, and he gets off to a really slow start. He did play better in the second half of the year and was good. I wouldn't call him great in the playoffs, but he was good in the playoffs. At the end of the year, he's a .906 save percentage, .286 goals against, and he ended up with 5.3 goals saved above expected. That's a pretty steep drop from one year to the next, right? You're 30 one year, then you're at 5.3. Well, so far this year, he's an .899 save percentage, a .288 goals against average, and he's a negative 2.1 goals saved above expected, which means that he's let in just about 2 more goals than he probably should have to this point this year in terms of the numbers. That's not good. Like, that is either right at league average or in some cases like slightly below average numbers for Saros. And they're not paying him to be a slightly below average to average goalie. They're paying him to be an elite goaltender. And the numbers right now, like, no matter what you think of UC Saros and the way that he's played and the help around him, the numbers are what they are. The numbers tell you right now he is not an elite goaltender. There's a quality start percentage that is the lowest of his career as well, and that's getting a little deep in the weeds of analytics. But the bottom line is the numbers are concerning to me for UC Saros right now. Your thoughts on the way that he has played to this point this year and the outlook with him right now approaching 30 with the numbers starting to trend the wrong way?
Yeah, no, they have to be concerning. And by the way, I did say that they should pick Askarov.
Yes.
Of course, Askarov or Askarov may not end up being great. Who knows? But the big part of the reason, though, and I think we both agreed on this last year, is, look, there are goaltenders who can go well into their 30s and be great, play at a high level. I mean, Pekka Rinne, I'd say beat the clock, right? But I think he's turning 30 in April, and again, the way he plays, he is more dependent on twitchy athleticism than most goaltenders. I mean, he's a tremendously fun goaltender to watch. He's extremely explosive. But I've always wondered, like, does that mean that his decline starts a little earlier than some guys? And I don't know if that's what we're seeing right now or not. Yes, of course, he's not getting help, and I think sometimes the goals save above expected. Like there's a lot of subjectivity.
There
in
is,
that,
yeah. Like it's not a perfect stat.
It's not a perfect stat. I mean, it's like with Lankinen, right? Remember, we were like, "What the hell are they doing?" But they obviously had some of their own numbers internally that were like, "No, actually, he's pretty good," and they were right. Yeah. So there's an example of the hockey community's analytics not matching up with a team's,
yes,
and the team being right. But I don't think there's any question he's not playing as well. It's a little bit too long of a period. I mean, like right there, we had the Brunette quote. He's like, yeah, 3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, that's not nothing, man. So I think it's concerning. And the thing is, what are you going to do about it if this is what it is? Look, coaches, teammates, they're never going to speak to this. It's always everybody else's fault but the goalie. But I don't think anybody would sit there and try to say, they might try to say it, but that he's like one of the top guys in the league. And that's what they paying him to be for many years to come.
Well, that to me is the most concerning part. Like, he's not an elite goalie right now. Now, does that automatically mean that he can't figure it out again? No. Like, look, I said this as I was kind of looking through this the other night. He has had some performances this year where he's looked like that. Like, he's had some performances where he has played great. I think he's got 4 shutouts this year. Like, he's had some moments where he's been really, really good so far this year. But on the whole, the numbers are what they are. And on the whole, kind of shows you the body of work throughout the course of a season. And that to me is where it starts to get concerning. Like, goals saved above expected is not a perfect stat. It is a telling stat. Like, it does, I think, do a pretty good job of showing you how goalies are playing individually. And it factors in like the quality of chances that you're giving up, the help around you, things like that. This too is concerning. Like, sometimes you see a save percentage lower than maybe you expected, and you say, okay, well, why is that? And you look at it and you're like, oh, well, it's because their penalty kill is garbage. Their penalty kill has been at the top of the league all year. So, like, that doesn't really help with the save percentage argument there either. Like, I mean, again, save percentage is also not perfect. Like, if your team is just garbage in front of you defensively, like, it's going to affect your save percentage. But the numbers on the whole suggest that he is in decline right now. And that, to me, like, I think with the contract, when he got the 8-year deal, you probably knew at the end of it, and then they probably knew when they gave it to him at the end of it, that the last 2 or 3 years of that,
of course,
may be rough. Like, he may not be the same goalie, but you were supposed to live with that in the offset of the first 4 or 5 where he was supposed to be an elite goalie.
Exactly.
And right now, I don't know that he's going to be that. I don't know that he's not, but the numbers are alarming to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the, regardless of what happens, and again, the loss to Anaheim is kind of like, okay, there you go. Don't get your hopes up for the big picture of the team this year.
Yeah,
that's one of the big stories, though. Regardless of what is happening with the Preds trying to get back into the race or not, is can he get back? Because he has looked like himself some, but I mean, that's the whole point. Is can you be consistently great, which he has been in multiple seasons prior to this. Those goals saved above expected, I mean, that stat, I mean, it usually matches up with what you're seeing out there, right?
Yes.
Like it usually, like when he had those ridiculous numbers, it was like every night you were expecting him to be very good to spectacular, and a lot of times he trended more towards spectacular. And it's just, It's just it looks different. So
I mean, for contrast, like he and Connor Hellebuck have been compared together for a long time.
yeah,
Like 2 years ago, Saros had 30 goals saved above expected. Hellebuck was at 31.1. Well, the problem is the last year Hellebuck was at 31.8, and this year he's at 26.7. Like he's still kind of right there, and Saros has fallen off the cliff from that angle.
Which means Hellebuck is going to be in the mid 30s probably by the end of the year.
Yeah.
No, it's no, they have been. They've been. I mean, their contracts were compared, right? When Hellebuck signed his, so Saros has had injuries. Are there some lasting effects? Is there an injury that we don't know about now? Something like that would be that'd be you'd love to have an explanation like that. But if it's just like he's just slowing down a little bit, he's just not quite, the reflexes, he's not quite that, because again, that's what it's about. It's post to post quickness, right? Well, if you lose that, then how do you get it back as you get older?
It's a good question. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Is it time to be concerned about UC Saros and his future with the Predators moving forward? We'll get more of your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on UC Saros and the Predators. Is it time to be concerned about some of Saros's numbers and what that could mean for him in the long term here? Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mike in Gallatin. Mike, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys, good morning. It's quite possible that you guys covered a lot of this as I kind of just joined in, but I feel like that we have not had a defensive pairing that's lasted more than about a week to really like solidify and know what our core defense is. Injuries have plagued us in the back there. I feel like last year we actually got pretty good luck with the injury front, and this year has not been so kind to us. So I think injuries got to play a large part to who's playing defense back there. We got a lot of rookies and a lot of Milwaukee guys back there helping Saros out. So that's got to play a part of it. And I think another, maybe even bigger than that, is the loss of Ryan McDonough. I just think that he was playing on another level that was much higher than Shea. They're not exactly the same guy. I feel like McDonough's defense of presence was above and beyond what Shea's trying to do. I think he's almost attempting to do too much, and we just lack a solid defender like what McDonough had. So again, I think that those two factors got to play a larger part into the Saros numbers than anything else. But man, you can't ignore the fact that he does have some games that he hasn't stolen any shows. I see what you guys are saying, but that defensive side and the revolving door back there has got to be a part too.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mike. Hey, look, the defense, number one, they've changed it, right? So, it's not only just McDonough gone, but you bring in Brady Shea, and he's not been what you thought he was supposed to be, right? Like he's gotten better. Like first part of the year, it was frankly a disaster on Brady Shea's front. Now he's gotten better and he's starting to look more comfortable. And I think he and Blankenberg, who have been together for a pretty good while now, I think have played pretty well for the most part. But like you traded away Carrier, Lauzon's been hurt. Wilsby's come up. I think he's largely done a good job. You've had Stasny kind of in and out. He just got sent back down to Milwaukee. Justin Barron's played with Yossi, and like Barron has shown some things offensively. Frankly, I think defensively, he's been kind of a train wreck at times out there. So it's not been perfect in front of him. But again, that's where like the goals saved above expected factors that stuff in, or at least supposed to. Again, it's not a perfect stat, but I do think it does illustrate a little bit of what's going on out there. Like I think this is a situation where a couple things can be true. I don't think the Predators are always getting good defensive play in front of him. Like they were running around in their own end Saturday night in the second period. It was bad defensively. Also, the first goal of the game is a goal that he should stop 100 times out of 100, and he didn't make a save the other night. Like I think defensively they've had some problems at times this year, and he's also not playing as well as he needs to play. Like UC Saros is not really for the last couple of years not been the same goalie that they've paid him to be.
Yeah. Now, his agent, his family, he might say, well, just give me a year when it is solid like it used to be in front of me. And, mentally, what does that do for a goalie if you have more consistency and more reliability, right? I mean, you could make that case, but like you said, then I don't give up these weird soft goals as much, and all of a sudden it all works better. I mean, you can make that case. They have to. Like that should be the goal because you are locked into him. I mean, he's your goalie, so do as much as you can to help him. Some people on the text line are making the point of overuse and it's catching up with him, and then he needs to, they need to. Well, it looks like they have. Well, they've scaled him back some already.
Andrew
right?
Burnett is saying all the right things, but his actions are telling you something different right now. Like they are playing him less.
But
right
is that man, he needs a break, or is that, well, he's not our best option right now?
I think I am reading into it as like he's struggling right now, and they're putting on and out there more often.
Yeah. Do you buy the idea that there's a cumulative effect?
Not real. Like, no, like I think that catches up with you later in your career. Like it shouldn't be catching up to him right now. I don't think. Like he's 29.
But again,
but
the way he plays, right? Like, does that mean just change the clock?
Maybe. I mean, if that's the case,
they're screwed.
Then this is a big problem, right?
Like, I mean, it's also like, I'm trying to think of like other who are the stylistically the goalies who are most like him, because I mean he could be a case study too,
Well,
right?
that's
Like
the thing. Like, there's not a ton that are his
Bobrovsky?
size. Like, yeah,
you know, like
Hellebuck's got good size to him. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot. The Pecorine type is kind of the way that people want to build their goalie now, right?
Right.
Like, you want to cover up as
the
much net as
Yaroslav
possible.
Askarov
Like,
type. Yes.
exactly. Like Vasilevsky, he's a huge guy in
Yeah.
net. So, like, that's where a lot of teams are going in goal. So it is a different way of doing things. And again, like, I'm not necessarily like abandoning hope on UC Saros. Like, I don't think that he's necessarily doomed to not recover from this. The numbers just are alarming. Like, the numbers are what they are. And different people can have their own interpretation of why that is. But the bottom line is, like, the goaltending position right now is not good enough for the Predators. Like, it's not, they are not getting the level of goaltending that they need to get, or that they're paying to get as they move forward. And the question is that going to change? And is he going to turn back into being an elite goaltender at some point throughout this contract? Or is this a sign of things to come? Because, Joe, if this is a sign of things to come, then this is going to be a really difficult hurdle to overcome for them over the next few years.
Yeah. Look, this window that we thought maybe they had just opened because they signed some very productive, if aging, players, was always based around you've got a top 5 goaltender in the league. And that's why once you get into the postseason, he can stand on his head and he can win series for you, win games for you, and all that stuff. And look, he has not had the great playoff success, although I think he's played well when he's had an opportunity in the playoffs. It's been limited. But that's the whole basis for any hope of them doing something with this group. And if he's not going to be great, there's no hope.
Yeah, then you got a huge problem at that point. We'll get back into this later in the show. Take more of your thoughts on UC Saros. Is it time to be concerned about him as the Predators move forward here? We'll get back into the Titans coming up next. Are we surprised / worried about the lack of moves on the coaching staff? We'll get your thoughts on that as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. So, Joe, some news on the Titans coaching staff yesterday. Kuharski put it out there that Colt Anderson is officially gone from the Titans staff.
Thanks for letting us know.
So after making the change at special teams coordinator and I guess being in limbo after John Fossil was hired, Colt Anderson gone from the Titans coaching staff. Luke Stocker.
Were they not answering his phone call? Like,
I don't
is this
know.
like Liam Cohen in the Bucks? Hey, Brian. Hey, what's going on? You want to hang out, go to Top Golf?
I smoke weed
sorry, Kyle.
constantly.
There you go. All right. So, sorry,
Duval?
I cut you off. Go ahead. Keep going.
Just you see the Duval? I mean, I know you saw it. You sent it to me.
I
The
sent it to
Duval
you.
stuff with
Oh,
Liam
yeah.
Cohen.
Oh,
We need to play that.
I mean, it's the audio of it is one thing. I think the facial expression that also accompanied him saying that. Play that again.
Duval.
Titans might be in good shape as it relates to Jacksonville over the next few
Yeah,
years.
he's like, first of all, I sent it to Corey too. Corey is way better than him at it. It's Duval. He's like Duval.
We're putting emphasis on the wrong part of it, buddy.
Yeah, you got a lot of work to do, Liam Cohen.
So that was just like, oh boy. It's about as cringe as it gets. So the Titans hired Tony Oden as passing game coordinator / cornerbacks coach. He was with the Jets. They promoted Luke Stocker to tight ends coach as well. Obviously, John Fossil as special teams coach, Raina Stewart coming in as special teams assistant. So that's the changes to this point with the Titans coaching staff. And it looks like, I mean, I would assume, Joe, at this point that that's it and that everybody else is coming back. Also, I should mention that Chris Harris gone as well. So
yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, that was a big hire for Vrabel.
Right.
And he missed some time last year. So I don't know the whole story there, obviously, but probably that's some of the story.
So are we surprised that there wasn't more turnover with the staff, more changes? You know, we talked about the possibility heading into the offseason of Nick Holtz at offensive coordinator. What about Denard Wilson as DC? Like, are you bringing both of your primary coordinators back as it relates to the offensive and defensive side of the ball? Well, I guess they are. Like, I assume at this point when we're about to head into February that any coaching staff changes would probably have been made to this point. I guess I could be wrong about that, but my assumption is that all those guys are coming back. So if that's the case, what do we make of it? How do we feel about it if you're a Titans fan evaluating this right now?
Yeah, I think if you're a Titans fan, you wanted to see a little bit more than this, and what you may have specific ideas. I think the only consensus idea was Colt Anderson, who again just, hey guys, I'm showing up to work. Like, it's like Kramerica just shows up and he's not getting paid. Colt, we're gonna move your desk down to the basement, Colt, and you can just go down there. And no, you can't have a stapler. I'm making jokes about Office Space, a movie you still haven't seen yet.
I know. I really need to figure that out.
But
Colt Anderson's desk is on the practice field out there. How did it get out there?
But it seems like that's the type of year where you'd have a little bit more turnover. I don't believe in like turnover for the sake of turnover. I think it's kind of like you gotta go with changes when you have an upgrade, and you have a chance to upgrade, then you do that. So I would say that the way it has unfolded, it's just like what you said with Andrew Brunette and UC Stars. The actions tell us things way more than words do usually, right? So I'm reading this in tandem with the GM being fired, is them the organization believing more that it's the talent issue than it is a coaching issue for this team, right? I mean, I think those things go hand in hand to some extent. I still think, you're talking about a rookie head coach, rookie OC, rookie DC. In retrospect, man, that was quite. I really like when Vrabel came in, for example. You get Dean Pease. I feel like there's some real value in at least one of your coordinators being one of those really, having a ton of experience if you can pull it off. I mean, man, the Titans had a run there where they had the back-to-back D coordinators were, Dick LeBeau and Dean Pease. I think Denard Wilson's still a promising coach, and overall the defense wasn't as good as some of the numbers suggest, but it wasn't the primary problem with the team. The Nick Holtz thing is, I definitely thought, I don't know, is this guy, is this that has to be an important position, and so maybe they need to try to get someone more experienced there, but obviously they didn't do anything. So, it's a little bit surprising to me, but again, I think it just speaks to them believing that it's a talent issue more than a coaching issue. We'll see. And look, the Bill Callahan effect it's got to happen. It's got to happen this year. There's nothing last year does not, to me, change anything about what he did up until last year. And by the way, in Cleveland, they'd probably crawl back here and rehire him if they could. Okay. But that needs to really show itself next year.
Well, in terms of like personnel evaluation, because look, Bill Callahan, great offensive line coach. Like, the record is what the record is on that front. Clearly, they felt good enough about Petit Frere at right tackle that's what they went with. That's a strike against Bill Callahan and this coaching staff right now. Like, they have to find a way to rectify that heading into next year. But we all knew that Bill Callahan was coming back. Like, we knew that Bill Callahan, as long as Brian Callahan was here, was coming back. I guess the Denard Wilson, Nick Holtz part of this to me is interesting. Like, I don't know that I walked away from the end of the season thinking that those guys were bad coaches. Like, Denard Wilson's defense, the numbers would tell you like that, they were the number one defense in the league by like yards allowed for a lot of it. Now, that was incredibly misleading. And
he'll still go on his bio.
He'll still go on his bio.
A few years from now, with the Tennessee Titans in 2024 ranked number 3 in the league in total defense.
Right. I think if you watch the way the games played out, we all know that was misleading, and they gave up a lot of points. And
Colt Anderson helped him have better
stats. And, when they needed to come up with big stops throughout the season, by and large, they didn't do it. So that was a strike against that defense. Nick Holtz offensively, it's tough to evaluate the offensive coordinator sometimes when he's not the play caller. But the entire offensive operation was bad this year. And I think it's pretty clear, like, they are, I don't want to say exclusively, but they're majorly blaming that on quarterback play. Like, they're blaming it on quarterback play and saying if you change the quarterback and bring in a better quarterback, that's going to change next year. My thought on it is this: if I'm a Titans fan, I'm not especially encouraged by the lack of changes on the staff. I'm not automatically giving up hope that this staff can't turn into a good coaching staff based on 1 year when it was their first year in all those roles: head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator. The leash, I think this is the general theme for the coaching staff as a whole. The leash is very short heading into next year. Like, there needs to be meaningful progress displayed immediately. I'm not talking, well, let's see how the first 6 weeks go, like, and then you can build from there. Sure, you want to improve throughout the course of a season, but you need to see results from the jump next year with this group.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. Like, I don't feel like I have a full picture of Brian Callahan as a head coach. I think there are still encouraging things about Brian Callahan as a head coach. Like you said, Bill Callahan has already established himself as a great coach. But there are coaches who could have taken the exact same team last year and not gone 3-14.
Agreed.
And yes, I will say that I think Mike Vrabel's one of them. I'm not ready to sit here and say Mike Vrabel, who, by the way, said he might come on the show. Just saying. So, I don't think he actually will, but he did say maybe. But, I think like Vrabel, Vrabel, to prove that he's a great coach, has to win at the highest level. Okay. But he's a good coach. He's a very good coach. And he's an example of someone who has taken less and done more with it. And last year they had less and did, well, they might have even done less with the less. But they certainly did, like, no more with the less, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like some of it is like looking like a well-coached team. Certainly in the kicking game, it was the antithesis of that for the first half of the year, especially. But yeah, finding those edges and winning close games and all those things. I agree. I mean, it's the pressure is squarely there.
I mean, I guess the problem I have with the coaching staff, we know how bad the roster is. We know how bad quarterback play was. We laid that all out. Where was the improvement last year? Like, where did the Titans get better as the season went on? Like, I mean, look, they got better on special teams as the season went on because they were that bad to start. And then they did make some personnel adjustments and got different people in there. But it was an improvement from a complete and total fire out there. So there's that. I don't know if that's exactly what I'm looking for. But, like, did the defense get better throughout the year? Did the offense improve throughout the year? I would say no. So that to me is more concerning than anything else about the coaching staff into next year.
Yeah, well, there was a point when I thought it was. I mean, think about again like the Houston game and even Levis, right? They had a little run where it's like, okay, but then it at the end
totally fell apart.
And again, maybe some of that is 1, 2, Cancun on 3 mindset and stuff like that. But regardless, yeah, by the end of the season, you were like, no, just it's pretty bad all the way across the board.
Yeah. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Your thoughts on the Titans coaching staff. Not a lot of changes heading into this next season. How are we feeling about that if you're a Titans fan? We'll get more of your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll have Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com on with the program at 8 o'clock. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him, including him catching up with Shedeur Sanders the other day. So we'll get his thoughts on Shedeur. Nashville's best deal this week, Single Tree Barbecue in Murfreesboro. Single Tree Barbecue, a local veteran-owned and operated business serving world-class barbecue with the perfect combinations of sides and desserts. Get half off a $25 gift card while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. Bobby in Mount Juliet says, Stilly says the Titans should fire Denard Wilson and hire some old defensive coordinator to take over the defense. Was the defense really that bad last year, or still he just want to fire somebody? This is from Bobby in Mount Juliet.
He does like to fire people.
He does.
We know he does like to do that. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, of the people who would be on the list to fire, Denard Wilson would not be high on that list for me. I hadn't really entered. Again, there's some empty calories and, some a little bit of skewing of the stats like we've talked about with the D, but like was the D, they gave up big plays late. They didn't turn people over like you need to. They weren't great. They also were missing what was supposed to be the strength of the team, those two cornerbacks this year. I don't think Denard Wilson would be on the list of people that I would be firing.
I don't know that I would fire him either. I mean, look, we've talked about this before. Like, what's the stat that matters defensively? How many points do you give up? I mean, the Titans are third worst team in the league at that. So 27.1. Now,
that's where Colt Anderson didn't help.
That's where Colt Anderson did not help him. You're throwing
and your
pick
offense
sixes all over the place.
Really didn't.
Your offense can't score and hold on to the ball. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I don't know that. Look, I don't know that anything Denard Wilson did this year was fireable. Right now, I'm more concerned with the offensive side than I am the defensive side. Like, the offense was absolutely atrocious this year, and they have pinned it all on the quarterback. Fairly or unfairly, they've pinned it all on the quarterback. We'll see if that's true, and if it was just as simple as Will Levis and Mason Rudolph or what was holding them back, or if there are some fundamental issues with the offense. Regardless if you believe it was all or mostly on the quarterback or not, if you're Brian Callahan, like, I do think you have to take a look at your process, everything that you did on the offensive side of the ball this past year, and say, all right, what has to get better? Like, what do we feel good about that worked last year? And of the many things that did not work, how much of that was systematically our process and our problem, and how much of that was simply just the quarterback play? Because it's hard for me to believe that it was all the quarterback play. I know the quarterback play was bad. We've talked about that ad nauseum throughout the year. I don't think it was all the quarterback play.
No. Well, I think the quarterback play, and I mean the two things that you could point to, and you can kind of excuse the coaching staff, kind of, but again, player evaluation is part of it. But it would be the quarterback play and it'd be offensive line play, right? They were both terrible. And like if it's as simple as your quarterback's not performing, not seeing things, whatever it is, not making throws that are right there for him, and your right tackle is just getting blown up over and over again. And he wasn't the only one, by the way. I mean, they had issues across that line at different times. Yep. Those are your personnel issues that are probably separate from coaching. But yeah, it's not. I mean, it all goes together. Apparently, a texter says that Jared also said they should hire Bobby Slowick. I didn't hear that. Bobby Slowick's a real interesting case. Guy who a year ago
fell out of grace quickly in Houston.
A year ago is mentioned with basically almost all those jobs. There was some talk that he didn't think he was ready, right? I think. Now, I don't know that he got an offer to turn down, but comes back and all of a sudden he's the guy they get rid of this year. Like he got dumb? I
don't know.
He worked with the same people, and all of a sudden, like what happens there?
It's weird. I mean, I was pretty shocked they fired him. Like, I realized Houston's offense did take a step back this year.
Yeah.
But was it fireable? I mean, they still got to the division round of the playoff.
I mean, look, I think that Stroud had a little bit of a sophomore slump. I think he missed some throws and just had some games that we didn't see last year. You can blame it on Slowick if you want. I'm sure.
Hey, look, admittedly,
I'm sure they had their reasons.
I did not.
It's kind of weird.
Obviously, we're in Nashville. I'm not sitting here paying overly close attention to the ins and outs and day to day of the Houston Texans. So I don't know. Maybe he was a big problem, but I found that one to be pretty head scratching when I saw it go across the screen. Like on the Titan side of it, again, this is where it gets difficult to evaluate the entire offensive staff because your head coach is the play caller. And we've talked about this. Like, I don't know that I walked away at the end of many games this year and thought, well, the Titans probably would have been in good shape there if the play calling was better. Like, I don't know if they necessarily had a play calling issue. So from that standpoint, maybe you do look at your offense and you say, yeah, we feel pretty good about our play calling. We feel pretty good about our process. You get better protection, better quarterback play, then you're going to see the points skyrocket at that point. Maybe it is as simple as that. They clearly at least somewhat believe that.
Yeah, they better hope so. But of course, then you have the challenge of actually finding that quarterback. But yeah, I mean, it's if you had to, it's still the biggest part of it is the quarterback. The quarterback not playing well, the quarterback not getting protection. You got to somehow fix both of those things. Like if Will Levis had great pockets this year, how much different would his performance be? I don't know.
Yeah,
probably
is different. But the Cincinnati game comes to mind, and he had some pretty good pockets, and he just threw it right to the other team, and you're like,
yeah,
what are you doing? Yeah. But you're right. Like it's hard to imagine over the course of a season that not affecting any quarterback, right?
Exactly. I mean, even if sometimes the clock doesn't need to be sped up in your head, it is because of what you've been dealing with.
Yeah. So
not making excuses for him. I'm not saying that they should bring him back. I think he'll be somewhere else next year. But it's a team sport. It's a team sport, Robbie. Coaches and players. You got to coach better. You got to play better.
Is it the ultimate team sport? Everybody says their sport is the ultimate team sport.
I've heard soccer, hockey, and football people all say they're. I've never heard baseball people say that.
I have.
Because baseball is baseball is the ultimate individual sport.
It is.
That's a team sport, right?
But you need all of those individual pieces together as a team.
Yeah.
Firing at the same time.
Pitcher, batter, and then I'm out in left field blowing bubbles. I mean, it's come on. Baseball has no claim. I love baseball. Don't get me wrong. Didn't mean to turn this into a roast of baseball.
Roast of baseball. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Cam to the program. Cam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, folks. So I got a question. If this thing doesn't start off, because I've heard you say earlier, Robbie, that they have a short leash. If this thing doesn't take off the way that I don't even know that anybody really anticipates. Like, so what do you do? Do you fire the head coach, fire the offensive coordinator, in the middle of the season, bring in a new head coach? I mean, so we're talking about a whole nother season of this right here. Like, I don't understand how this is. It's really shaky. The rinse and repeat thing is, I have very little confidence that they're going to be able to turn this around. They made Jarrett Stillman, and I love Jarrett, don't get me wrong, but they made him look like a prophet with the left tackle and all, all this crazy stuff because we thought that the head coach or the dad was going to come in and fix the offensive line, which didn't happen. I'm just curious if it doesn't work. Like if we're at game 6 or game 7 and the Titans have not won a game next season, then what? Do they implode and blow it all up? Is Amy gun shy because of all the firing that she has been doing? Yep. I mean, how does this work?
Yep. Thanks for the call, Cam. Oh, look, if they're at game 6 or 7, they haven't won a game, then yeah, I'm not going to take any of that off the table. The firing of the head coach, the firing of a coordinator in the middle of the season. If you're at game 6 or 7 and you haven't won a game, yeah, I'm not taking any of that off the table.
Yeah, I mean, if you fired a coordinator in season, I guess that's the head coach, trying to, sometimes it gets into like saving yourself. And
coordinators get fired in season all the time.
Here's the problem. But yeah, look, I think whether it's in season or it's just at the end of the season, if it doesn't get significantly better, then I don't think Brian Callahan will get a third year. And so then you'll have, but again, it's like, the Bears here, they just drafted their QB. they've had all these different timelines, and they're a disaster, and maybe it's not going to work out, but right now they feel pretty good about hiring Ben Johnson with Caleb Williams, so we'll see. I mean, it could, again, this could lead to, you could end up, depending on what happens this offseason, with new coach with a new quarterback in 2026.
Yeah.
Get excited.
Well, I mean, is that really that? I talked about it.
Or you could have your quarterback this year.
Rand. I was like, so we doing this again next year when Callahan gets fired?
Yeah.
Like, would that really be a stunning outcome for anybody right now? I don't think so.
No. I mean, I think it's almost not quite stunning, but almost surprising if it doesn't happen.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans coaching staff coming up next. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode at 7:45, Jim Wyatt at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, which, as always, are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. One texter says, what I find alarming is that the Titans put together good drives on a lot of the first drives this year, and then it stopped immediately. That seems like a prep issue. So I would say that seems more like a adjustment issue, right? Like game planning and the scripted stuff at times was pretty good, and then it faded as the game went along.
Yeah, those the scripted drives, like when they work, then that's impressive. You scripted a good drive. You scouted your opponent. You found stuff that would work. That's great. So when they don't work, then it's like, well, what's the issue? But yes, if they work and then you fade, then that's not great. So yeah, I guess adjustments would be the issue there.
Well, like, how do you eventually get to a point as a team where you can put up some points in the second half? I mean, we've talked about that for like 3 straight years with the Titans.
Many people have tried.
Can you please score some points in the second half of football games? I mean, look, I guess when you're scoring 16 points in total every game, that you're not scoring a ton in the first or second half. So you got to find a way to improve the entire process there. But it would be great to see a little bit more second half scoring moving forward from this team at some point.
Yeah. Again, it's like, why does this fan base have to be subjected to all these people getting fired and all of them not being able to like score a touchdown after halftime?
It really is amazing.
But you can hear the Johnny Cash song. Ding, ding, ding,
Yep.
ding, ding, ding. I mean, like, God, give them something to watch.
That's what the plan is. That's what the plan is now with the new staff, new front office in place here. Like I think what we've learned from this discussion, like it's really difficult to have confidence in the coaching staff heading into next year. I don't know that confidence right now is what I'm asking for, because when you're 3-14, I don't think you have confidence in a whole lot with the operation. How much improvement can there be, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Like, I think it's reasonable to expect that when in any walk of life, right? Like when you do something for the first time, there are things that you learn along the way, what works, what doesn't work. And people who are great at their jobs can adjust and evaluate those things and then build on the positives moving forward. Like, what did Brian Callahan take away from the first year beyond just the quarterback play that will tangibly improve next year heading into next season? Same thing with Nick Holtz. Same thing with Denard Wilson. Like, is there growth with this coaching staff? Clearly, all of those guys were identified and hired for a reason, and y'all feel like they're pretty good young coaches. Well, that's got to manifest itself at some point here. And I will be looking early into next year, and we'll see what they do with the roster this offseason. But I'll be looking early into next year of like, can you find some answers as a coaching staff quickly? Because again, there were too many examples this past season of not enough answers from this coaching staff.
Yeah, and I'm sure when they talk to each other, there's a lot of talk about the talent gap, the talent deficiency that they're facing. You know, it brings to mind, speaking of Vrabel, Mr. Maybe, brings to mind, you know, the thing. I remember Karski got so mad about this. Vrabel was like, yeah, every team in this, I'm paraphrasing. Remember, he's like, every team in this league's talent. Everybody got talent. You know, it's not about that. You know, Paul said, what are you talking about? You know, but there is something to, yeah, the coaching.
PK wasn't the only one that got mad about that. A lot of Titans fans mad about that.
Yeah. You know, but I mean, to a point, I got what Vrabel was saying there, but also like, yeah, there's different levels of talent at different teams. Come on, Vrabel, right? But you still, as a coach, you have to find a way. You know? And it didn't look like they had a lot of solutions last year. So the biggest solution is, yes, better players without question. And absolutely better quarterbacking. I mean, if you could pick one thing that would improve, that's what you would pick, right? You would pick that position, having someone better than what they had last year in both Levis and Rudolph. but is that enough to, is that enough to win? And also, again, with Callahan, the biggest attraction, the biggest draw for him was quarterback development.
Exactly.
So, if they bring in a veteran, I guess that's less of a storyline. But if you draft someone, then you want, in theory, the reason you still are employing this guy is because he's good at that. So how much time does he get to work with a rookie if you do actually draft one of these
It's
guys?
just hard for me to imagine him getting a lot of time. I know that with the way that things have gone around here lately, it's probably not the greatest course of action. Like everybody probably does need some time here, but I don't think he's going to get it. Like I think there's going to have to be some pretty significant improvement next year with this team, or we're going to be having the same discussion about a coach the year after that. Like, it's just hard for me not to think that, particularly now. I mean, like, you've got a different dynamic with the front office. And the fact is, Brian Callahan is not Mike Borgonzi's guy.
Right.
And I know I'm sure that they're going to work fine together, and he took the job. And
I don't know. Have you seen the bro hugs?
I mean, I don't know.
Check those
But
bro hugs.
the bottom line is, like, the way professional sports works a lot of times is if, like, there's not immediate results, a lot of times you just change the coach and they go get their guy.
Yep. And so now again, that could be the front, like you said, new front office, and they have someone in mind. There's also, I think there is always this possibility with Amy that, like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm going to do the exact opposite, which is like, you know what, you guys get 5 years. I'm not even coming to games anymore. Just good luck. Okay. Let me know how it goes. Like, at some point, the constant changing could, and the criticism that has come with it.
I mean, who knows?
Could all of a sudden force a total change of direction.
Did Callahan get a contract extension this offseason?
Hey, they
Rand got one last year, apparently.
So it's nice. A lot of paying a lot of people to not work for you.
Caleb says, is solidifying the offensive line, particularly the right side, just as important as getting some sort of quarterback?
Pretty close. I mean, they're both.
I don't know that I would ever say it's as important as the quarterback.
Yeah,
but it's very important.
It's up there. Yeah, just be solid. Again, be solid, but also, are you solid on the left side? There were some good signs. There were some games better than others, but are you good?
Yeah.
I think some people are just like assuming, they're good there.
I think there's been way too much of that. I think there's been way too much assuming that, like, oh, well, J.C. Latham is their franchise left tackle. And it's like, well.
And Skoronski's,
maybe.
He's on his way.
Latham had some moments this year where he was good. He also had some moments where he's pretty bad. Like, it's a rookie, so I'm not blaming him for that. But I did not walk away from this season just totally convinced that J.C. Latham is some foundational left tackle on that side. Maybe he is, but I don't think there's any way you could know that right now based on the way that he played.
No, it's one of those things that you just have hope. You have hope that year two, here he comes, and now you're solid there. You have hope that year two, wow, T'Vondre Sweat is even slimmer after that offseason, and he's making more of a difference. I mean, there's a lot of things with that. If they don't break their way, then they really have roster issues. Even with things breaking their way, they have roster issues. But imagine if some of these things go the other way on them.
Well, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. Take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Jim Wyatt at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Duval. He's like Duval.
We're putting emphasis on the wrong part of it, buddy.
Yeah, you got a lot of work to do, Liam Collins.
Oh, that.
Duval.
Yeah, that was we were dead on with that reaction. Holy cow. I'm sorry, but like my ears are doing like this psychedelic thing right now. This is so weird. That was one of we were absolutely dead on in that program.
It's that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours.
So I got a couple pre-rants. First of all, Chase McCabe, if you don't get some actual coffee in this place, you know, when I have a caffeine headache, I swear just
violently,
uncontrollably. And I'm sitting in front of a microphone that you own. You don't own it, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying. I went into the pantry today to get a coffee, and there's all the little K-cups in the thing. They're all decaf. First of all, they've been there for a while. Don't put decaf anywhere near anyone, okay? No one has use for decaf.
Then somebody here used it? Does somebody like decaf? Okay.
No, that's why it's been the same decaf K-cups have been in the thing forever, but like the other half of it was actual coffee. So it's like, avoid the pitfall. Don't accidentally do a decaf. Then I looked in the cupboard and there's boxes of coffee. It's all decaf. There's no caffeine here. You know what you're doing to me, Chase?
We got as much decaf coffee as anybody could want around here.
Yeah, this is you're treading on dangerous ground. So I'm not threatening anything. I'm just telling you, man. You know,
sometimes things happen.
When my caffeine headaches kick in, it's like all I can do is just F-bomb my way through it. Second quick pre-rant here is Stilly. Would you just use your ears for once, Stilly, instead of just reacting? He comes up, he texts us both. Joe is such an idiot. If baseball was an individual sport, Mike Trout's teams would finish in last place every year. Listen. Here's again the point. Like someone on the text line is like, well, tennis is actually an individual. Yeah, I understand. Baseball is not an individual sport. Golf. Baseball is, yes, golf, tennis. Those are, I did not say baseball is an individual sport.
Bowling.
However,
bowling.
Yep. Those are individual sports.
Keep going.
Yeah, baseball is a team sport. We can all agree. Let me say it again. I never said it wasn't. Baseball is a team sport. We were talking about the sports that say they're the ultimate team sport. And in a sport in which the most important part of it is the pitcher on the mound staring down the batter at the plate. It's an individual matchup is the center of baseball. That is what baseball revolves around. There's team defense. You got to hit the cutoff man. You got double play balls, all that stuff. Great. It's a team sport. You cannot say that baseball can threaten football, soccer, hockey, basketball as more of a team sport when, again, the game revolves around one person on the mound, one person at the plate, facing off against each other. That's what I'm saying. So shut up, Stilly. Also, Sam Darnold's better than Jalen Hurts. Oh, God. We could do an hour on that ridiculousness. Anyway, my actual rant today is about the Dallas Cowboys.
We got there.
Yeah, we finally got there. Like first of all, let's listen to I've got a couple sound clips that are just beautiful. First of all, which one should we do first? Let's do Stephen Jones first. This is him at their presser yesterday introducing Coach Brian Schottenheimer.
Obviously, we're also evaluating where it didn't go right, in terms of, this drought that people say we're in terms of a championship game or a Super Bowl. And
he did air quotes when he said it. The Cowboys fans are furious. Chase,
the drought.
While you were trying to find me caffeinated coffee, Chase, I know that you're excited about what Stephen Jones did there. Yeah, air quotes that the people say we're in. Yeah, people. So now, again, this is another great example of actual facts don't matter. Yeah. We don't need actual facts. They say we're in a drought, it's kind of fake. It's kind of fake news, We're not really in a drought. Let's throw this one in too, though. This is Brian Schottenheimer being interviewed. He was very touch that Dak Prescott and a few players showed up to his press conference. Let's listen to this.
We got the right guy. He's going to lead us to championships. He led a few guys, it seemed like, to the press conference. What was that like seeing him in the back there?
So I knew my family was going to be there. I literally, I almost lost it when I saw him. I figured there'd be one or two. You can hear it in my voice now. To see the number of guys that were there, I think it shows that we're off to a fast start. We're connected. We know each other's hearts. We know each other's dreams. We know what we need to get done, and we also understand how much work we have to put into it. But truly humbled. I love them and appreciate it, and we'll remember that part maybe as much as anything in today's conversations.
He almost cried because the dude showed up at his press conference. You can hear it in my voice. What? I mean, this organization has got to be and the thing that's sad is last year they were a really good team, and your team went in there and bombed them out of there. But they weren't far away. It's a disaster now.
It's hilarious. First off, just in general, these coach introductory press conferences where they display how weird they are. Like the Liam Cohen stuff yesterday. It's like, I know you're trying to get your fan base fired up. I know that's really exclusively what those things are for. I get it. But some of just the cringy stuff. I saw the quarterback at the press conference almost cried. It's like, what are we doing here? This is ridiculous.
We know our hearts. We know each other's dreams. No, he showed up at your press conference. That was nice. That was a nice move.
Just this goofy look on your face. It's like, these guys.
Okay, I kind of like that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it from the standpoint of, wow.
Content for us.
Yeah, content for us.
Duval.
Just total cringe with these coach introductory press conferences. It's unbelievable.
And just I mean, again, it's just like a thing that someone.
At least Vrabel got there. Right? We're just going to coach better, play better, evaluate people.
Yeah, exactly. This whole you can hear it in my voice now.
1 week we're going to stink and this guy sucks and then I suck.
Saying that, yeah, I'd prefer that.
Yeah.
Not that Vrabel pressers were all that good.
So do you think that he was breaking down in tears because he realized that Dak Prescott was still his quarterback, or is it because he was there at the press conference?
Oh, my God.
That's unfair to Dak. He's okay.
He's okay. Yeah, we were just talking about the Titans trying to get Dak not that long ago. That dream has died. Yeah, man. But just between that and the drought they say we're in, air quotes, what? I mean, what are you?
I won a championship in 30 years.
Right. People like to say that stuff. I saw someone tweet is he's acting like their actual drought is like the Loch Ness monster or Bigfoot, it's some mythical creature that doesn't actually exist. No, really, you haven't won a championship in that long. It's actually true, man.
Well, I'm sure this Schottenheimer hire is going to go really well for Dallas. I'm sure it'll be what pushes them over the top.
Oh, my God.
Looking forward to it.
Chase, bring me some effing coffee with caffeine in it. ASAP.
737-1025. Our phone number. Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com will join us coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com. Jim, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
you taking time to be with us. So, Jim, let's start on the Shedeur Sanders front. You were there the other day as he spoke and met with the Titans. What were your kind of first impressions of Shedeur Sanders, who obviously we'll be talking a lot about over the next 3 months?
Yeah, I had a great first impression with him. I have to say, I know coaches and the GM and everybody else with the team did as well. Like they had separate times with him. Yeah, I know there was a throw-in session last Friday that a lot of Titans personnel were there. Shedeur Sanders was there. He wasn't throwing, all the other guys were, but he just was there kind of to make himself available. And Brian Callahan saddled up to him that day and talked to him for maybe 15 minutes. First time he'd met him, really good impression. And then Shedeur came to the headquarters where a lot of teams were meeting. The next day, and the Titans were supposed to get him for 15 minutes. The Bears, a couple other teams that didn't really need a quarterback, gave up their time to the Titans so they could have extended time with him. So they met him for another maybe 30, 45 minutes in that room. And then he did his media availability the next day. And he's the biggest star down here. There's no question about it. There's nobody even close. And I say down here, I've moved on. I'm in Mobile now. I'm talking like I'm still in Dallas. But he was the biggest star at the Shrine Bowl. There's no doubt about it. So everybody wanted to talk to him. He did his media availability. And then I think everybody figured that would be it. I was hoping to get extra time with him. I wasn't holding my breath doing that. We had a couple other people, from the team down here. Todd Gray, one of our video guys, Max Walsh, another, guy that helps out in the video, Donald Page, our photographer. Everybody's just trying to gather as much stuff, for the draft. I don't know who the team's picking at this point. The team doesn't know who it's picking at this point, but in the event it's Shedeur Sanders, we're trying to get as much content as possible. So I asked Shadeur's brother, Dion's son, hey, any chance the Titans I could get him for extra 5-10 minutes? And Shedeur actually heard me asking it at kind of a walkaway session, and he said, "Find me. He'll find me later, and I'll do it." And then, sure enough, we went to him, and he made extra time for us. He shook all of our hands. He couldn't have been any nicer, and I left thinking, man, this is a very nice kid, great personality. A lot of things still to be sorted out as far as the quarterback play, but seeing him and meeting him for the first time, I left very impressed.
So, Jim, obviously, I don't think anyone would have expected him to probably play in this game. I mean, I'm sure his agent would, that'd be a non-starter. That's what I would assume. I was kind of surprised he was going, but it seems like this is the idea, right? This is the point, to be down there, to have that extra time. I mean, there's other opportunities to talk with teams and all that, but get started on that. And even this aspect too, be out in front of the media, because there is stuff, I think, about him that's just probably unfair because of his dad. Do you feel like it's almost like this is a little bit of an intentional, I don't know if a campaign is the right word, but a way to get out there and let people know who he really is?
Oh, I definitely do. Yeah. And I didn't expect him to do anything. I think he's already left there. Like, I know Dion was there yesterday, but I think Shedeur's moved on. Shiloh, his brother's there, taking part. But I think the only reason he went was to make himself available to teams and just to kind of let people see him for who he is. Yeah, I'm like everybody else. I saw him from afar. I know who his dad is. I know, he comes with a lot of extra attention. He had a film crew there himself, kind of filming his every move. They were, and again, it was Dion's son, Dion Jr., who was doing it, and he wasn't filming just Shedeur. He was filming all the Colorado guys down there. But he comes with a little extra, especially because of who his dad is. I think Shedeur probably told the teams the same thing he told us is, hey, is it really a bad thing to have a dad who's interested in you and cares about what you're doing and wants you to do it the right way? While he did his interview with the Titans, there were a couple of times where Dion actually FaceTimed him during that meeting, and Titans said, hey, pick it up. And they had a little fun with it. I think he wanted them to know that, hey, yeah, he's maybe gotten a lot of attention. Yes, people have some questions about his father and his involvement, but his father's going to be coaching Colorado, or he's going to be coaching somewhere else. He's not going to be here babysitting them or whatever team he ends up going to. He's not going to be there babysitting. Yeah, he's going to have an influence, but I don't think that's all bad. If your dad's a Hall of Famer, certainly I don't have an issue with him being involved in his son's life.
So, Jim, as you've talked with people and as you've kind of looked at this process that, again, is in the beginning stages here as we get ready for the draft here in a few months, what are kind of your initial impressions on Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward as it relates to the type of prospects that they are heading into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're different prospects. And it's funny, they're buddies. They train together and have a little fun bantering back and forth about who the better prospect is. And I think you ask different people and they'll tell you different things. I think a lot of people consider Cam Ward to be the better prospect just because maybe of his speed and his run threat and his skill set overall. I was watching, something Mel Kiper had on TV last night with Phil Yates, and I think Phil Yates is of the opinion that Cam Ward is the better prospect, and most people have Cam Ward going first. Mel, I noticed, has Shedeur Sanders as his top-rated QB, and he's not going to kill you with his speed necessarily. I think he's, maybe the arm strength isn't as good as some other quarterbacks that have come out recently, but I think he's known for kind of throwing on time. I think he's known for making relatively good decisions. Obviously, has to speed things up some. He got sacked a lot last year. Some of that's because Colorado's line wasn't that good. Compared to other quarterbacks that have come out in drafts in recent years, I think both these guys, there's some questions about how they measure up, but that's what this process is about, just to see how they fit in your system, what you can do with them. I know one thing Brian Callahan kept saying when I talked to him about Shedeur Sanders is just how tough he is and just how he took so many hits and just kept getting back up. He's not a complainer. He's not a guy that's looking to point fingers at other players, for making mistakes. And again, I think he was raised right from a football mindset. So you're getting a little something extra there because of that.
So Jim, obviously the Titans could go after one of those guys. They could decide to try to trade out of there. I mean, Chad Brinker last week talking about 30 picks in 3 years, 12 in the top 100. I tried to do the math on that. I'm like, I don't see how that happens if they don't trade out of this spot. But if they were to do that, the other option other route they could go is getting a veteran quarterback. What do you think about that situation, the veteran quarterback possibilities right now in free agency, and I guess possibly trade as well?
Well, there's some options out there, and I have to be careful sometimes. I've been reminded in the past about talking about players that are on other teams. It's one thing I was working the paper doing it. I think now working for the team, I've learned maybe John Robinson's the one that reminded me of it at one point.
You can tamper. No one's listening.
Better not mention specific players if they're still under contract. But I am aware that there's some guys out there who are going to be available in free agency. I also know that there's some guys that you think might be available, and then March rolls around and they're not. They're either tagged or they're re-signed. There's some guys I think that potentially could be of interest via trade. I think that's something you have to explore. But again, you also got to keep in mind that some of these guys that you're potentially could be eyeing the Titans aren't the only ones looking for a quarterback. So even if they like somebody and they're available, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to sign them. So a lot of moving parts there. I think what happens in March certainly is going to tell us, give us some clues certainly about what could happen in late April. And I'm curious myself. I know this is early in the process and a lot to be determined at that position, a lot of other positions. I'm with you in knowing the value of getting extra picks. I'm with you in knowing that the quarterback position isn't the only position they need for the Titans. So this is a roster that needs to be rebuilt. And also aware that some quarterbacks are coming up in future drafts that could be long-term options as well. So I think you got to consider all those things.
Jim, you caught up with John Fossil, and I'm just curious from your vantage point there, your impressions of him and just what he's done in this league. Well, what sort of a boost and upgrade you feel like the Titans are getting on their special team staff with him leading the way?
Well, he's great. I wouldn't expect him to be down there. I should have thought about it more that, I was in Dallas and he lives in Dallas, obviously coaching the Cowboys. So I didn't expect to see him at this throwing session on Friday morning when I was there, but sure enough, there he was. So I loved his energy. I'd heard so many good things about him from afar, after that move kind of leaked out, guys, everybody from Keith Bullock to Coach Mack to, I think, Roger Saffold, Derek Mason, like a lot of people that had been with him before that I know all raved about him and just talked about his energy. I've seen, video clips of him and just his passion. And just in the 5-10 minutes I talked to him, I could sense that. I mean, he's a very, kind of an emotional, youthful, exuberance type energy that he brings. And I think the Titans were really lucky to get him. I mean, and he talked about why he wanted to join the Titans and felt like he wanted a fresh start and likes Brian Callahan and said he'd always been intrigued by Nashville. He's got 3 girls. He's looking forward to getting them to Nashville and being in the city. But he brings moxie. I mean, he brings a great teacher here. Yeah, Colt Anderson is a really nice guy. I liked him. I felt bad for him because everyone wants to see guys not have success, and he had a tough time, and he didn't have a lot of experience. Obviously, coming here now, they've got a guy who has a lot of experience and will demand players get it right. And he's also known for being a guy who will he's not afraid of a little trickery. And so, some people that I know that cover the Cowboys, we're talking to him a little bit about how Callahan may even have to rein him in a little bit because he's always pitching stuff he wants to do and fakes he wants to try in different situations. So I think it's going to be a whole new game when it comes to special teams for the Titans.
Hopefully it's not like Vrabel trying to get Brett Kern killed on a
Yeah, I hope you don't have any calls like that.
more like the one against the Texans, the Byard throw.
Maybe quarterback, maybe the punter throwing it instead of running it.
Yeah,
wow, Brett Kerr just got totally massacred out there.
Oh boy, what was that? Devin White? Was that Devin
Yeah, it was
White?
Devin White.
Oh boy, 1-on-1 against Devin White. My goodness. Are you noticing a Barganzi effect here, Jim? Like, what's the vibe? Just with the front office changes.
Well, yeah, it's different. I know we've got a couple others that have been leaked out, I guess, that have not officially been announced. Yeah, it's a new front office and an experienced front office. I can mention it because it's out there. I think it's reported that Dave Ziegler's coming aboard, Reggie McKenzie's coming aboard, obviously, Mike Berganzi, who has done it for a long time himself. Yeah, it's a certainly new look front office. And they have flooded certainly these, off-field events like I haven't seen before. Some of that's because of the new GM, and I think some of it's because you got the number 1 pick. And I think I counted maybe 16 to 20 Titans representatives at the Shrine Bowl. Everybody from Mike Berganzi to Brian Callahan to Chad Brinker to Nard Wilson to Nick Holtz to, pretty much everybody on the scouting staff. So I think they're going to be a lot more aggressive in just scouting players and how they handle things. And again, when you're at these events, you see people that have crossed paths with him before, and all of them have raved about him. So now he'll have to go out and find the right players. There are people that raved about Rand Carthon when he was hired. It was for different reasons, more about his great relationship building and ultimately what I think got Rand is maybe some of the other parts that didn't get done in acquiring players. But we'll see how this works with Mike Berganzi. But certainly, I think it's a great hire, and I think two big moves this offseason to get Mike Berganzi and John Fossil. I think those are probably the top guys at their respective jobs, and now they're both with the Titans.
Well, Jim, great stuff, man. Really appreciate your time as always. Enjoy yourself in Mobile, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, appreciate you. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what Jimmy had to say there. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Thanks to Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com for being with us in the last segment. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Dylan to the program. Dylan, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning. I'm glad you guys brought the biscuit back. That's a good one. You guys should.
People were very mad when it was gone.
Oh yeah, me too. I was. Excuse me. But Joe is a Bush hater, and the big four, Allison Chain, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, right? I get that. But Joe hates Bush for whatever reason, and that annoys me. But that's not the reason I'm calling here.
I hate them less than some bands, but carry on.
Oh, yeah, Creed. So the Chiefs. I'm so done with the Chiefs. I'm so over the Chiefs. And it wasn't as egregious as it was in the Texans game, because that was bad. But somebody in Josh Allen is not going to do it. He's not going to do it. He almost threw 2 picks in the first drive. This dude is not going to beat the Chiefs. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be CJ Stroud? Is it going to be Joe Burrow? I mean, like, someone has to beat the Chiefs, and I'm so sick of the damn Chiefs. Like, somebody has to do it. And I don't know, man. I'll take your comments off the air. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate it. Well, I mean, everybody's trying. I mean, it's hard to beat that team. And first off, I mean, Joe Burrow has been the one that has done it. He has gone and won in Arrowhead in the playoffs. Brady was the other one, and he's gone, at least for the moment.
Who's the greatest quarterback of all time?
Tom Brady.
Okay. Well, Eli Manning beat him twice in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Also, like, I don't know that I'm convinced that Josh Allen is never going to beat him in the playoffs either.
I'm not
like
either. Like, I hear what you're saying, Dylan. He was shaky early. I agree. Early on, I'm like, man, is he too amped up? But, like, eventually, he was pretty freaking good. He's pretty freaking good.
Referee could spot a ball correctly. He might have won. Who knows?
Well, there's that. And, you know, Lamar Jackson last year, I mean, they couldn't run the ball. Chiefs totally dominated. They also had Zay Flowers fumbling at the goal line, and that it's a totally different game if that doesn't happen. I mean, you know, I think one of these guys could get him. Burrow has
Tannehill was up on him at the half, baby. Let's not forget that.
That's right. Tannehill was taking it to him. Burrow beat him. So, you know, it's not impossible.
I guess almost up on him at the half. Were they up at halftime?
They were still up.
No, they were still up.
They were still up, but it was
starting to fade.
I think it was I think that cut it to 3. Well, you know what? I'm not sure. That may have put them ahead.
They were up for a while.
They were up. I mean, they were up. Yeah, they were up multiple scores. They couldn't be stopped at the beginning. You know, it's the problem is what if the Chiefs do, like, what if Worthy does develop into like a real weapon? You know, what if they keep adding to that? I mean, because they can be better than they are. They're an imperfect team that cannot lose close games, and they're maybe about to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I understand. Everybody has fatigue. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jalen Hurts may beat him. I have no idea.
I mean, if only they had Sam Darnold. Now, if the Eagles had Sam Darnold, then we'd be talking about a Super Bowl, folks.
Duval.
Maybe that's who it is at the end of the day.
The audio is very good, but it's the video with it.
The facial expression along with it
makes it an absolute keeper.
I would imagine that one's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
We'll be seeing that clip of Liam Cohen saying Duval probably long after he's the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, would be my guess.
So you don't think he's going to be good, huh?
Well, I mean, recent history, and by recent I mean over the last 25 years, would suggest that it's going to be a tough go of things for the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach.
Yeah.
There's an exception every now and then.
Doug Marrone had a couple good years
He
in
did.
there. By the way, Mike Vrabel's offensive line
hiring
coach.
all kinds of people.
That's a pretty good hire.
Yeah.
Maybe Vrabel will come on here and tell us about it.
Well, maybe is the last thing we heard.
Yeah. It's not no.
It's better than probably not.
That's it. It is better than probably not, which is another one that will live on forever. Not quite. I mean, I think the best drop we have is probably PK, though, right?
Yes.
Nick, that's your cue. He's not even listening to the show. I was trying to set Nick up to like
Duval.
No,
not that one.
that
He definitely
one.
wasn't listening. That's okay.
The PK one. Give us the PK one. Come on.
He's left.
I smoke weed constantly.
That's just
would have been better if you hit it the
that's
first
so-
time. But
Yeah,
that's all
I know.
good.
Right. It kind of lost the effect, but it is still beautiful.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll continue to take more of your thoughts on the Titans. We'll also get back into our UC Saros conversation as well. Is it time to be concerned about UC Saros? And I'll lay those numbers out for you again coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, sponsored by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Tuesday morning. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe, diving back into our UC Saros discussion. So I laid it out there earlier. The numbers are not trending in a positive direction for UC Saros really over the last couple of years. So let's just start with the 2022-23 season. That was 2 seasons ago. That was John Hines' last year. And that was the year, they sold off Ekholm and Niederreiter and Jeannot and Granlund and got those picks and prospects at the deadline. And everybody thought that they were just going to be kind of dead and buried in the second half of the year. And they didn't. The young guys came up, they played well, and it was until game 81 that they were still in the playoff mix. And a big part of that, the biggest part of that, was UC Saros. He was great in net for them down the stretch. He finished that season with 919 save percentage, a 269 goals against, and a goal saved above average of 30. Now, you can find different analytical websites, and everybody measures it a little bit differently. I'm using Hockey Reference for mine, but 30 goals saved above average. Pretty darn good from UC Saros a couple years ago. That's elite goaltending. That's what you're paying him to be. Last year, we know it. He got off to a rough start. That was a big reason why the Predators struggled out of the gate last year, is he was not up to his usual standard in goal. He got better as the season went on. He was pretty good in the second half of the regular season, pretty good into the playoffs. He finishes with a 906 save percentage, 286 goals against average, and a goal saved above average of 5.3 at the end of the year. So a pretty steep drop off from the year before in terms of the goal saved above average number, but maybe you just explained it. He was so bad in the first half of the season, and then he started to figure it out. Well, this year, he's got, at the moment, an 899 save percentage, a 288 goals against average, and a goal saved above average of minus 2.1, which means he's right around league average to slightly below average in terms of the goals that he's allowing so far this year. It doesn't mean that he is doomed moving forward, but it also, Joe, is not really encouraging. You're talking about a guy that's going to be 30 years old in April. He just signed an 8-year contract extension, which, by the way, has not kicked in yet. It kicks in after this year. And I think you knew when you signed him to the contract that maybe the last 2 or 3 years of that deal probably wouldn't look very good. But you live with that, and you offset that by you expect elite goaltending for the first 4 or 5 years of that. He's not giving elite goaltending right now. How concerned should Predators fans be by that?
Yeah, I think pretty concerned. Like you said, it's not doomed. You told me right now, UC Saros is a Vezina finalist next year. Okay. I mean, I could believe it. But like you said, I think last year we had similar discussion, but it was still earlier. It was more the outlier. But like that first half of last year, the GSAE was way down, right? And it was like, what is happening? But that was also, it's a new system, and of course there are other factors. You can't totally cleanly separate everything in goaltending numbers and say it's definitely all that.
Right.
I mean, you do the best you can with these numbers. I said earlier in the show, the numbers that everybody in the league looked at with Kevin Lankinen were, wow, he's terrible. The Preds signed him anyway, and he was good. So teams have better information than this. But also you can watch UC Saros and you can match up the way he's playing with those numbers. He's not as good right now. Why is that? Have the injuries accumulated, caught up with him? Is he hurt right now? We don't know it. Is he getting too much blame for this stuff? Is it the fact that the way he plays, and we've talked about this for years now, actually, at least I'd say a couple years that this has come up, the way he plays with his size, you have to be twitchy, explosive, and it's a high athleticism requirement to be able to play in this league at that level, which he's had. So does that desert you earlier than the traditional bigger goaltender who can get into the mid-30s and still play at a high level? I think that's a fair question, and that was one of the reasons that last year I said I just think that they should not spend this money on him, and that they should try to go with the young guy and, kind of deal with the that in between time where you're maybe not very good there, but in the end have more money and then have the younger player for longer. They didn't choose that way. It's not right now time to say Trotz blew it.
No,
but it's concerning.
It's concerning. How much of it is everything else that's gone wrong with them this year? Like, obviously, they had not just playoff expectations. I mean, there were expectations that this team could potentially be dangerous this year, and they just have not been at any point this year. He's been a part of that. I mean, I talked about none of these stats are perfect, right? Like, you can look through save percentage and you can poke holes and like, all right, well, so-and-so has a really good save percentage, but they're not giving up anything. Like, they've got the puck the whole game. You're going to have a good save percentage more than likely at that point. So there's different ways to look at these numbers. The goals saved above expected thing is not perfect, but I do think it does a pretty good job of kind of illustrating who's playing really well in goal and who's not. And the bottom line is, like, to me, it's beyond just like how much of this season is concerning for Saros. It's the fact that the 8-year deal hasn't kicked in yet. Like, the numbers over the last 2 years would suggest that he's in a decline. Now, I don't know for sure that that's like some permanent decline. He is only 29 years old. I mean, he'll be 30 in April. So theoretically, he shouldn't be falling off the table yet. But maybe the usage has caught up. Somebody brought that up earlier. Like, have they used him too much? Have they worn him into the ground with the way that they've played him over the last few years?
And the way he plays, maybe the way he plays means that you have to rest him a little bit more, especially moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that needs to be a given. Like that. I think the days of him, I mean, he's gone through now a 3-year stretch, or excuse me, I guess before this season, a 3-year stretch where he started 67 games, or excuse me, played 67 games, 64 games, and 64 games. That's a lot of games.
Yeah, it's big
for a
those
goalie.
are big numbers.
That's got to change as they move forward here. But you're paying him, or you're about to start paying him to be an elite goalie. And I understand it. Like, the contract, the number that he ended up signing last offseason came in lower than I anticipated. Like, it wasn't like it was $8.5 million a year. It came in under 8, which I thought was a really good job by Barry Trotz to nail the number down that way, particularly when you knew what Hellebuck got and what Shesterkin was going to get. Like, I thought they did a good job of lowering that number. But right now, he's not worth that. Like, right now, I mean, that's still, you're paying him to be an upper echelon goalie. And the numbers would tell you right now that he is not. So regardless of how you feel about that, look, I said it earlier, he's had some starts this year where he's looked great. I mean, he's had 4 shutouts.
Like UC Saros.
He's had plenty of games this year where he's looked like UC Saros. But in totality, the numbers are what they are. Like, I am presenting the numbers. This is what they are. This is what they tell us. And I would be very concerned about that if I'm the Predators.
And again, those numbers of GS, the goal saved, against expected. I mean, that's, I think that matched up before, like that year when, the year when he should have been a Vezina finalist and wasn't. And I get my years mixed up. But I remember that the GSAE number that year was insane. And it was like, that's exactly what we were seeing.
Yeah.
Night after night, he was doing ridiculous things. And it matches up now to me with just too many soft goals. Like you just can't let in that are getting in. I got to read this from Adam in Portland. It says, I feel the same way about Saros. A lot of people feel about their spouses. They love them, but it doesn't look like they like them very much. And I just don't like him. He's a great dude. He does everything right. He's also short, and I don't think he can win a Stanley Cup for us. Now we're stuck with him until I'm in my mid-40s. What the hell? That's a lot, Adam. That's a lot. But I had to read it.
Yeah, I mean, it is so important. We talk about this season on the whole of how much of this is just one season where everything has gone off the rails, and next year they can rebound and they're back in being competitive and in contention. And how much of this is just a misidentification of what they are, and could they be in for more pain moving forward here? Well, I'm here to tell you, if he doesn't get better, they're in for more pain.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah. Like if this is what he is not only what he is, but what he's trending towards, and it's getting worse, then this is a bad deal for the Predators if that's the case. I'm not convinced that it is, but the numbers are alarming. They're trending that way.
There's no question about it. There's another potential aspect of a situation like this that hasn't come up, but I think is also worth addressing.
We will get into that coming up next. Your thoughts on UC Saros? How concerned should the Predators be with some of the numbers that we've laid out there? More on that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, discussing UC Saros and the Predators. And Joe, you had another point on the Saros front you wanted to bring up.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of surprised actually that it hasn't come up, and I don't think it's a thing, but I have not seen one person say, "Oh yeah, he got paid and he stopped working out, stopped working on his game, et cetera, et cetera."
We have heard that with several other players before.
Yeah. For the record, yeah, I don't think that's part of it. Look, I don't know. I don't know what he does on a daily basis.
Technically,
he
he
does
hasn't
not
got paid yet.
Well, yeah, but he's signed it.
He has signed it.
He's signed it. So he is paid. The money hasn't come in, but that's the thing about the NHL.
Fully
Those
guaranteed, baby.
contracts are fully guaranteed. He does not strike me as someone who would get paid and be like, "No, screw you guys. I'm going home."
No.
So I don't think that's the thing here. But there are also levels of that. Like there's it gets exaggerated. Like, and I understand, like there are examples of people get paid and then they completely fall off the map and stop giving a crap. But a lot of the time, maybe there's a little less desperation. Like obviously before you get paid, there's a desperation to get paid, and then you get paid, and there's not that. But obviously, you see Saros is.
See, I actually thought it would go the opposite for him this year. I thought with the contract stuff behind him that he would be like, all right,
well, remember
the contract
Forsberg
is behind me and Askarov's gone. Like he's not behind me anymore with back pressure. I'm good. I can just play.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And sometimes it's also to prove it a little bit when you get paid. I mean, I think Forsberg, right? The year after he got paid was his big year, right?
I believe it's 2 years after he got paid.
That's right. It was the next year.
I think the next year after he got paid was where he got hurt halfway through it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. He was having a good year.
Yeah. Good, not great.
But he got hurt in the Philly.
And then last year,
the Flyers game, right?
Yeah. He got paid, I believe, coming off the 42 goal, 84 point.
Yeah. So I guess, so actually, as I totally misremember things, there was some talk during that next year about, Phil got paid.
Right.
And now look at what's happening.
And then last year he put up 94 points.
Yeah. So it's I don't think that dedication or anything like that, hard work, work ethic, I don't think that's what it is. It's just about if he is indeed declining, if it's a real thing that's that it's the trend is going to continue. I have to think it's just. Here's an example. If he's already an outlier as a goaltender in this league, the way he plays, his size, all that stuff, and it's probably next time a guy like this comes around, think carefully before you invest long term because maybe it doesn't last as long.
Well, this is they need this to be an aberration and not a trend that's indicative of what he's turning into. Like they need this to be just basically along with everything else this year, a trend where you just stub your toe and then next year he's back to being an elite goalie. Because again, I'm not even talking about him rebounding from this and being good. Like they're paying him to be an elite upper echelon goalie. That's what you've paid him to be. And that's what you're counting on as you're building your team moving forward. And if you're not going to get that, well, to me, that totally changes the way you have to build your team. Like if you're not going to get that elite goaltending, then you have to overcome that as best you can. And you probably can't overcome it fully, but you have to overcome that as best you can while building your team in another way. Meanwhile, he's taking up over $7 million a year.
Right. Like how many? I mean, there are teams in this league that have won it mixing and matching at goaltender, but it's because they don't have all that money devoted to goaltender.
Right.
If you do have that money devoted to goaltender, then you need Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
You need the Igor, you need those guys. And again, not long ago I thought Saros deserved to be mentioned with any of those. And I understand people are always gonna make the Pekka comparisons, and no, he's not Pekka Rinne and all that stuff. But I mean, in recent years, I think he's, again, you're talking about a guy who has been in Vezina discussions and for good reason.
Now,
and that's what they paid for.
Now, look, sometimes goalies just have off years. Like you're hoping beyond hope that this is what that is if you're a Predators fan. Like Vasilevsky's a good example. Vasilevsky, we know, he's been an elite goaltender for a long time in this league. last year, he wasn't very good. Like last year, he had a 900 save percentage and he had a goal save above expected of negative 5.2. Well, this year he's at 915 and he's 13.9 on the positive of goals saved above expected. So he has rebounded after what was a bad year. And they're basically the same age. Like Vasilevsky is 30. Now Vasilevsky,
that shocks me too that he's only 30.
I know. Now Vasilevsky also is, 6'4" and 230 pounds.
Right.
So it's a different thing. The more concerning part to me, rather than just the raw numbers for this year with Saros, is that it feels like a 2-year trend. It feels like it's been trending downward now for 2 consecutive years. And that's where I start to get pretty worried about, okay, well, if it's been 2 years where he started to trend downward in terms of his overall numbers, like, is that going to turn around, or is that just the sign of what's now coming?
Yeah. I mean, last year was obviously really bad, really good, just like everything, right?
Yeah.
So he did have like an extended stretch of playing UC Saros level.
He did.
But it was very bad before that. And yeah, so that's two seasons now where it's been more bad than good.
Right. Like, and again, like the way you've structured your team, he's got to be a huge part of it. Like I felt like with year 2 in the system, because I do think it was pretty easy to explain away if you wanted to his bad start last year. It was like, okay, the system was new. They were getting, and that does affect goalies. Like when you're doing things differently with your breakouts and everything, like it affects the goalie. So I think clearly he had a tough time adjusting that. The thing is, like this year, he actually started, like comparatively speaking, he started pretty well this year, just purely him. Now they couldn't score a goal around him and the wins and losses didn't look good, but his numbers to start the year were decent and they have started to really tail off here lately.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, the Preds paid him based on what you just said about last year, how that's how they looked at it. Right. I mean, obviously you had the choice there. You had to figure things out with Askarov. Like that was a huge question last year, is the direction. But clearly the Preds looked at it like, yeah, it's just he starts slow, plus all the new system, everything was out of whack. And so you just kind of dismiss that, and now I just don't know, because it's a great point by you. Like you've removed these distractions and concerns, and it's very clear now what his future is. I mean, even when he started to take over for Pecorino, there was no guarantee, that he was going to be a long-term answer. Yep. Was he a bridge goalie, whatever? Then you draft Askarov, and it kind of looks like, they just kind of look at Saros as the, a really good in-between guy. And now this is going to be their long-term guy, more the traditional big goaltender. Well, that's not the choice they made.
It's not.
Right now, at this moment, looks pretty shaky.
They need him to they really need him. We talked about, at this point, the playoffs are probably not happening. They need a lot of things to happen to feel decent about next year. Probably at the top of that list is him looking like UC Saros. That would be great.
Number 1. Yep.
That does it for us today here on the program. Jason Big Joe coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.